Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video where we're off the back of a bit of a frantic game week in terms of suspensions from game week 16, injuries and defenders mainly being out. So we're going to go through some defensive options to replace those players that are going to be missing in your team going forwards. Let's get straight into it.
Yeah, so as Ben mentioned, a bad week really for most defenders, unless you owned Lewis Hall, of course, with that massive 15-pointer. So we're going to be taking a look at a few cheaper defensive alternatives. I think me and Ben are pretty conclusive in the fact that if you want to get an Arsenal or Liverpool defender in your side, that they are probably the best defences to target at the moment. But if you don't have the budget to stretch that far at the moment, obviously there's a lot of premium attackers, Isak, Jackson, along with Salah, Palmer and Saka, who are all performing really well at the moment. So if we're wanting to get, a little bit of budget in there, these five guys will be the ones that we'd consider. We've gone for five because they all have their pros and cons, and it depends on sort of the defenders you already have, the rotations, etc., like that. So make sure you do check out the sort of the rotation of what this defender would bring to your FPL team. So after all that, Antonee Robinson is up first, obviously off the back of 2 assists at Anfield at the weekend. In general, Fulham defensively this season have been one of the better sides, ranked 6th overall for expected goals conceded on the season, which is brilliant when you consider the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool are first and seconds, which for a defence that going into the season we didn't think would perform this well, I'd say. Southampton at home this week, so if you need a defender going into game week 17, I'd argue that Antonee Robinson could be on the top of that list. Obviously Chelsea the next week, so you might want to consider having him bench for that week. What's your thoughts on him, Ben? Do you think he's one of the strongest candidates moving forward?
I think he is one of the strongest candidates. I also think he is going to be the obvious option to transfer into your teams this week and the most template pick. Obviously, because of those 2 green home fixtures that Fulham have got coming up and 2 goal involvements in the last game against Liverpool, which obviously wouldn't happen on sort of any other given game week. So I think this has become a template pick just because of the Liverpool result. So yes, I think if you can stretch your budget just a little bit to 4.7 because some of these options are a little bit cheaper. I think he is the safe all-round option to go for. And if you're looking to maintain rank, then definitely look at bringing in Antonee Robinson in because the masses will be bringing him in. And in terms of elite managers, they'll all be bringing in Robinson this week.
Yeah, another thing to side note as well is to keep an eye on Joachim Andersen's fitness. He missed out in game week 16 due to injury. He could be back for Southampton at home this week. He's only 4.2 million. So if you are really strapped for cash, just keep an eye on his fitness and see if he'll be back in the side because you're going to get the same clean sheet points that Antonee Robinson's going to offer.
Okay, so next up is one of my personal favourites actually for this position. It's Levi Colwill of Chelsea. Now, obviously, Chelsea lost that clean sheet sort of fairly late on against Brentford. I think if they played the game a little bit better, then perhaps they could have sort of locked away that clean sheet a little bit earlier on than they did. And in some aspects, I think that he may have been a little bit unlucky not to keep that clean sheet. But in terms of Chelsea as an overall team, they're looking really good at the moment and the fixtures are getting better. Of course, their defensive rank isn't as good, but they have had a much harder sort of fixture run to start off the season. So you've got to bear that in mind as well. We aren't seeing too many clean sheets so far this season anyway, and he was a whisper away from getting one at 4.6 million, and the Chelsea team that's flying second could potentially be first in the league at the end of game week 17. This is a really decent option to go for.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think when you look at the fixtures in the short term, you could say there's 2 clean sheetable fixtures there with Everton away. Everton offensively, probably one of the worst sides in the league in terms of scoring goals. Ipswich as well don't score too many goals either. So I know they're away fixtures, but I'd hope that he'd get at least one clean sheet out of those 2. In the setup against Brentford as well, he was whipping in a lot of crosses from like a deep position as well, which is something to look at. Could have had an assist in the game for himself as well, which, from a centre-back is pretty decent. No goal involvement so far this season, but if you're looking for a safe pick who is going to be playing week in, week out, you're not really going to have to worry about rotation either. This is the guy to go for because Chelsea's fixtures are so good for such a long period of time. Okay, then so on to the third defender, and again, a slightly more expensive one is going to be Tyrick Mitchell at 4.8 million. Obviously, Daniel Munoz is suspended for game week 18. 17, isn't it?
Shit.
So Daniel Munoz is suspended for game week 17 after he's picking up his fifth yellow card of the season. So if you did want to wait for game week 18, then maybe you can consider him an option. He is a point 0.1 cheaper at the moment, but I do believe he is rising in price. In terms of attacking threat for both of them, they're relatively similar. Obviously, Mitchell picked up an assist against Brighton at the weekend. Again, another side that was unlucky to lose their clean sheet due to a Mark Gahey own goal near the end of the game too. So far this season, mid-table sort of rank for Crystal Palace defensively, but I think again you could look down to the fixtures due to that, and also the run coming up for Palace. I know it doesn't look too great on the fixture ticker, but after Southampton, there are some nice games to follow. What's your thoughts on the Palace team and sort of defence in general, Ben? Do you think it's something you'd look at?
It's one that I wouldn't trust at all for any clean sheets, but the attacking threat is there, more in particular from Munoz. And I think if you are in a position where you can hold that transfer for maybe 1 or 2 more game weeks, or if you're in a really confident place where you can bring in a Munoz because his attacking data is really, really good, then I'd recommend considering it, because you're setting yourself up prepared for a Southampton at home fixture and the fixtures after that, where you actually might want one of these Palace defenders. And I think you're looking at the wing backs rather than the centre halves from Palace, just because of the attacking threat and the lack of clean sheet potential. But I really do sort of like the opportunity and the differential option here that you can go with. Okay, so next up, we're going to talk about Milenkovic of Nottingham Forest. And Nottingham Forest have really been sort of a surprise package for many owners of FPL this season. They've been fantastic defensively. The defensive rank is up there in the top 4 in the league. And they've actually sort of been coming back, some of the Forest defenders, with attacking returns as well, which is fantastic to see. The fixture run isn't too bad for Forest going forward. They had a little bit of a tricky start, but it should sort to hopefully even out. So let's see what happens here. I don't mind it. I'd like to think that this is almost like a safe sort of would you say boring? Maybe it is a little bit boring because the defensive ranks sort of that good, and maybe sort of it's for the clean sheet potential. But Josh, what's your thoughts there on Milenkovic?
Yeah, I think you could say it is a little bit boring, but to be fair to Milenkovic, he has one of the highest XGs in the league so far this season. So the goal threat is really there with him, especially from obviously set pieces. We saw him score at Old Trafford last weekend. He scored again this weekend. I don't know if you're going to get 3 in a row from him, but I think the general set piece threat is there from Nottingham Forest as a team and from Milenkovic individually. Obviously, Murillo went down injured, so there might be a case of potentially, that defence might not be as strong depending on how bad that injury is. But I think, like you say, similar to Levi Colwill, you're not going to get too much, but when you do, they are going to be reliable and play week in, week out. Okay, and then on to our 5th and final option for this week's video. We're going on to Lewis Hall, and obviously Ben owned him for last game week for his huge haul, which was fantastic. I think it was coming almost with Lewis Hall. He seemed like he was getting forward. Obviously, you've seen there with the 2.5 XGI so far this season. It's decent numbers, that is, for a defender, because typically defenders get more assist threat than goal threat, which tends to be ranked a little bit lower in terms of chance creation. So, decent. Obviously, Newcastle this season have been relatively decent defensively as well. Obviously, keeping a clean sheet against Leicester is a good result. My problem with Newcastle and their defenders in general is that the fixtures are going to get a little bit tougher now. Obviously, Ipswich this week, so fine for a 1-week sort of punt. But after that, Villa at home, United away, those type of sides tend to score most games. United haven't failed to score under Ruben Amorim just yet. So, what's your thoughts on Lewis Hall, Ben? Obviously, loving him after that massive haul this week.
Yeah, absolutely loving him after the haul. And there's a case you could say you maybe sort of points chasing if you go for him, but I do think that Ipswich away fixture provides really sort of good potential for Lewis Hall. And Newcastle defensively as an output are really improving week on week. The stats are getting better week on week with them, and I think you'll see that defensive rank rise again over the next few game weeks, even despite the fixtures toughening up. So there's the potential for the clean sheets, but on the eye test, Lewis Hall does look ridiculous, and he's really sort of providing an attacking output, an attacking threat, and in my opinion, one of the top 3 left backs in the league at the moment.
Okay, then, so that wraps up our top 5 defensive picks for the week. Let us know if you've got any other different ones in the comments and who you might be going with. Obviously, loads of suspensions, Cucurella, Ait-Nouri, both getting sent off at the weekend, which is not ideal for FPL managers. So hopefully you found someone to replace them in this video.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the FPL Graduates. And as usual, I've been Ben,
I've been Josh.
and we'll see you guys
Next time, have a good game week, everyone.
So you